Of course, the biggest earthquake on record to hit Japan, and the tsunami that followed was unprecedented.
And Fox 11's Susan's Hirosuna is in Japan this evening. She's been there all week long, reporting on the first anniversary, and Susan joins us now live.
Phil and Pablo, thank you very much. I have moved from Ofinato down the coast a little bit to Rikuzen Takata. And if you picture in your mind's eye a high school gym, I'm essentially in the city-town center of Rikuzen Takata, where many of the people of the area were told to come with the tsunami warning. Unfortunately, the tsunami got to this area. So if you picture a high school gym, but instead of a hardwood floor, it's covered by sand and debris and bits of clothes and a car, two cars. I see two little cars in here. The clock is stopped at 3:30, which is the time that the tsunami hit this part of Japan. It's really quite remarkable. The day has been spent remembering the dead and paying tribute to all those who were here during the tsunami, the emergency workers and what have you. It's been emotional, to say the least. What's also remarkable is that after a year, that there is so much damage that you can still see. There's been a lot of decisions for local governments as well as the country itself on how to go forward. A lot of the challenges involved have to do with the fact that the land mass, a lot of the land has just dropped significantly, and it means that anything that you build needs to accommodate that drop. I think I may have sent to you some scenes from two of the commemoration ceremonies. The first one was kind of an official one, not as emotional perhaps as the second one, which was outside, right along the coast. That was more of a Buddhist ceremony, and there was beautiful paper lanterns that they were going to launch right after the ceremony.
Susan, Susan, just a few minutes ago, we heard from Al Naipo. He was interviewing some Japanese citizens down in San Clemente, and they really wanted to talk about the nuclear reactors and the problems there. What's your sense of how people are feeling a year after this earthquake and the dangers that still exist with these nuclear reactors?
Well, it's not as if I've heard anyone talk specifically about closing them down. There is a lot of concern for their everyday living, and that's what we sort of focused on more specifically. I will tell you that my hotel in Tokyo was right up the street from TEPCO, which is the company that runs Fukushima power plant, and there were police stationed around TEPCO, presumably because they anticipated that there might be some protests. But while I was in Tokyo, that was a couple days before the anniversary, I saw no sign of it. So, but there is certainly an awareness that what happened there was catastrophic, and it is said that the more that is being revealed about the investigation into what happened, what precisely happened, it's getting clearer that they were dangerously, dramatically close to full meltdown. And of course, that certainly doesn't allay anyone's fears here in Japan or around the world, frankly.
Susan, when you travel around that part of the country, give us a sense of what it's like, the landscape. I keep thinking back to the earthquake here in Northridge in '94, which was the huge disaster. 72 people died. 19,000 people died there.
Yeah.
It's going to be decades before it's rebuilt. What is it like to be there?
It's just so remarkable that you can see parts of these little coastal towns, and they seem like everything is, happy and functioning, and then you really don't have to go very far at all, a few yards before you're reminded of how catastrophic this event was. And again, you mentioned how many people were killed in the Northridge quake. Let me remind you that where I am standing right now, in the city town center, where the residents of Rikuzen Takata were told to come to escape the tsunami, in this location, 200 people died here. Only 3 survived, and they were all in this evacuation center, presuming that they would survive whatever events came their way, and they could not. In fact, you see evidence of how high the water came. We passed by a hotel right on the coast, and 4 floors were engulfed. And if you figure that each floor is, a minimum of 12 feet, so now we're talking about 48, 50 feet high the waves were, the water was.
So what are you going to be doing tomorrow? It's already Sunday afternoon there. Is that the end of the official ceremony, or is it going to be continuing?
I don't think there are any other ceremonies planned for tomorrow. We're just trying to, at this stage, take a lot of pictures because it really is remarkable, and it's hard to get the scope of the devastation here. And so I'm doing my best to take as much video that I can so I can bring it back and to show you. We also are considering perhaps going to an area that has been designated by UNESCO a cultural heritage spot. And the reason for that has more to do with the fact that not only was the economy devastated because a primary industry like fishing was affected, but also because tourists aren't necessarily coming to this area. Now, we're not that close to the forbidden zone, if you will, near the power plant. We're pretty far away from that. But there's a lot of effort for people to try to restore the economy here. We went to a testing plant where they test all the produce and the rice and the beef and the seafood so that it can be certified as safe, and people will feel good about purchasing the produce, number one, and number two, exporting the produce and the beef. Hirozumi, I mentioned that cultural heritage spot. It is said to be a beautiful location. And again, the fact that it got named by UNESCO as one of these cultural heritage locations, the locals are hoping that it will bring tourists back into the area.
Have they been welcoming the international media, the people there, or would they rather not have the renewed focus on the anniversary?
There is a lot of media here, to be sure. We did try to stop a young woman who was with her child, and I wanted to ask her a couple questions, and she demurred. She decided that she didn't want to talk. I've, felt like, well, let me backtrack. I talked to a man who said, look, we're happy to have him here, but we don't really need to be reminded that it's been a year because, frankly, we see it every